Well, I want to welcome you to session 3 of kind of our crash course on church marketing. We're really walking through 7 different types of church marketing that all work together. And we're kind of approaching this from the angle of the lead pastor because we know you don't have a marketing degree. You don't wake up thinking about marketing, but you do wake up thinking about the church. You wake up thinking about how do we reach more people? How do we help the people that we have grow? And how do we bring people into this great thing that's going on in our community called our local church? And so today I want to talk about a method of marketing that quite frankly, not enough churches utilize. This has a lot of different names, but most people just call it content marketing. And here's what content marketing is and how it can work in your church. It's simply sharing and promoting something helpful. So if you want somebody to do a thing, right? Maybe you want them to visit your church or like come to Vacation Bible School or whatever. You can certainly just throw out the invite, right? You can just jump to the ask. But what works in a lot of scenarios when the ask is kind of big or there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of confusion, what works sometimes is by creating helpful resources that just point people toward a simple next step. And so in other words, instead of thinking I've got one shot to get this person to come and visit, we lengthen it and go, can we get them to take a step? Can we talk about something? Can we share something, promote something that might be of helpfulness? It might be of interest to them and it might be helpful. And then does that help build trust? Does that earn? And then you have the idea of nurturing them along the way. It's kind of like when you think about how a seed grows into a plant, right? You plant it, but then you water it, then you fertilize it, then the sun shines, and then time happens. Well, this is how a lot of people will connect with your church over amount of time. So here's what happens. People are searching for help. And so you've got to answer the question. So here's kind of in every one of these sessions, we're trying to give like an aha moment or a big idea. Here's the big idea. Where do you want to be found? That's a question. Where do you want to be found? So every day, people in your community are going to Google or YouTube or social media. And we're going to do, the next session is going to be specifically about search. But they're going to these places online and they're searching for something. Now, they're not necessarily searching for church to attend on Sunday. They're searching for something that they need help with. They're searching for, relationship advice or parenting help or something about kids or students or how to find a counselor or where do I get help with, fill in the blank. They're searching for very real things. And what's happening is our churches aren't showing up in these search results because we're not creating content that answers these questions. We have this content, it's just buried in a sermon. We have this content, it's just on like page 4 of the notes. We're not bringing it front and center. We're not promoting it. We're not sharing this kind of what I call helpful content. I think of this content as almost being like, I call it the new front door content. People used to just come to our church and they would visit our church service. And then it's like, well, then they visit the website. Well, now before they even visit your website, they're probably interacting with something that your church has published. It may be a video on YouTube or whatever. But we need to be creating solutions that answer the questions that people have. You need to show up. That question, where do you want to be found? You want your church to show up either in a search result or really in somebody's mind at the point where they're searching for real help. That's when you need to be found. So these are great conversations to have on social media. These are great topics to preach on in sermons. These are great kind of resources to have available, but they're also a great marketing tool. Now, if I were to pull back the curtain a little bit, and I do this inside Church Fuel, Ryan does this inside Church Marketing University, we do content marketing to help grow our organizations. We share a lot of free stuff, like videos like this, resources, downloads. We share a lot of free things. And over time, if we do it right, and if we're truly helpful, we earn the right for you to become a customer. We don't just say, beat on your door and go, sign up, sign up, sign up. No, we're trying to earn your trust. And this is something you can do as a church. You can create helpful resources and put them online, ask people to download them or interact with them or read them or watch them. But they're not like just sermons. They're resources that are helpful that you can create and create conversations with people. This is called content marketing. These are great conversations to have with people in your community. So I want to give you some action steps for how to do this, because the whole idea of content marketing, it's like, it all seems complicated and confusing. But let me just give you a simple action step. This is something you can do this week. This is something you can do. You can get a couple volunteers to help you do. And so here's what I would do. I would write one piece of content around a solution that your church has for your community. So I'm not talking about necessarily a sermon, but I would create one piece of content. Maybe it's an article. You could do it as a video if you want as well. But you could get a writer in your church who maybe is a volunteer or somebody that could help write. Maybe you talk and they write. But I would create one kind of resource that addresses a need that you know people in your community have, right? We know they need parenting help, or we know they need help overcoming addiction, or we know they need marriage help, or we know they need to know, what do they need to know? If you're in touch with your community and listening to the needs of your community, write an article on this, write something helpful on this, and then publish it. And then you can ask your people to share it. You can promote it. You can turn it into a Facebook ad if you want. You can ask people to download it with their email address and then send them some follow-up. There's so much you can do with this once you get started. But the action step for you today is just to create one piece of content. So go, what topic do I need to talk about? Well, look in your community. Where does your community need help? What is your community searching for? What kind of questions is your community asking? Your resource could be about faith. It could be about families. It could be about money. But it needs to be helpful. Remember, the goal with content marketing is to create something that is helpful and valuable and give it away for free. You're not selling it. You're not even asking them to come to church to get it. You're just providing it. You're being helpful. You're being kind of out there. You're entering into the conversation. Now, once you have this, and I would just start with one. What's one article? What's one ebook? What's one resource you need to create? What's one video you need to record? Then you can do so many things with it. For example, you could put it on your website and then you can optimize it so it shows up in search results. Ryan's going to talk about that in the next session. You can ask your people to share it. You can post it to your social channel. Like, there's a lot you can do because now you're going to have this asset. It's not buried in a sermon library. It's not hidden, as week 3 in a sermon series. It's something that you can bring front and center that answers the question that your community has. You can do this a bunch of different times, but just start with one. Create something helpful that you can share. And by creating that kind of helpful content and sharing it, that is really a crash course in what content marketing is. And this is something that your church can do. This is something that you can do as a pastor. You know how to create content. You create content every week for your sermon. You're just packaging it different, formatting it different, making it usable, making it bite-sized, making it downloadable. You're just taking a core skill that you already have and just making it in some way that can kind of generate more interest in your church. Really what content marketing is connecting the dots. Here's your community and here's your church. These little dots along the way, helpful resources, bite-sized, easy to digest, easy to consume pieces of content are ways to move people along the line. And this is something you can do. When you've got it done, there's a lot you can do with it. We'll talk about some of that in the next session on search and how to optimize for that. So how do you show up in these results when people are Googling something? How does your church show up there? And so that way you can bring people into church that way. So we're going to talk about that in the next session. Content marketing, start with one topic, start with one piece of content, and then make it useful and make it usable. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon. God bless.